Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I know we're all eager to get to lunch, so we'll try to make this interesting and brief. I'm Patrick Lamson-Hall, alongside my wife and business partner, Nuria Puigcerver. We run Fitted Projects, which we describe as a market-focused urban planning and design firm. And relevantly here, we're the company that came up with the plan, the architecture, and the urban regulations in Ciudad, Morazán in Choloma, Honduras, which we were lucky enough to hear so much about yesterday. Before we get into the details, I think this is an amazing project. I'd love it if we could give another round of applause for Massimo, for Mayor Ursula, and all the ZA residents who came to be here. They traveled very far from their families to be here today. So we're going to talk about how we plan Morazán and why it works, but I also want to take this opportunity to give some bigger context about why it matters. Because ZA Morazán, for all its achievements, is 23 hectares, it's a few hundred people. So why is it such a big deal to create a place where the formal sector, where real estate developers can provide decent housing to the masses? So in the next 30 years, as we've heard a couple times, about 1.5 billion people are going to be born in or move to cities. Most of them are going to be poor in a global sense. 3/4 of them are going to settle on greenfield land, meaning land on the periphery that hasn't been built yet. And between 66 and 90% of that land, if current trends hold, is going to be informal, meaning it's unplanned, oftentimes doesn't have basic services like water, power, and electricity, even roads. And the reason why this is happening, why developers essentially ignore these these people, is because regulations make it basically impossible for them to offer any kind of home or land at a price that those people can afford. And instead they do the rational thing. They make their money building very nice cities for the privileged few, or even worse, they take pity on the poor and create a small number of subsidized units where you end up with people who are essentially vassals. They can't leave. So new city projects, like so many people are working on here, in many places sit right next to massive slums that spring up because the new development created lots of jobs, but nobody thought clearly about who would fill those jobs, or who would clean their homes, or who would cut their hair or take care of their children. And this is a big issue. It's a big issue because it's myopic, it ignores a major problem, but also because it leaves a lot of money on the table. Everybody living in a slum also has a budget for housing and utilities. And land in many slums has a higher value per square meter than in the formal sector communities that are adjacent to it. Now, I don't want to tell a room full of libertarians what to do, but I can tell you, you can pick that money up off the table and maybe even win a humanitarian award for yourself. And what you need to do is be more ambitious, like Massimo, and try to serve that mass market. And this starts with taking a genuine interest in the people around you in the place where you're building. Expand your sense of the market to include your neighbors, and then shoot for a good product market fit. We conducted in-depth studies in Choloma and learned, for example, that the average middle-income household has about 5 people in it, it spends more than half its income on rent, and has a shared outdoor toilet. The challenge we got from Massimo was pretty simple. It was to give those middle-income people, who were mostly factory workers, decent homes in a safe community with good services, but for no more than they were paying before, and with no subsidies. This is difficult, but it's not impossible. To achieve it, we needed to increase the density of the settlement. That lets people share the cost of roads, pipes, security over more households. And density doesn't just mean high buildings. The tallest building in Morazán is still only 4 stories. What you do is you use things like low plot sizes, smaller roads, shared green spaces, get rid of free parking, incremental building, subletting, all these types of soft densification that increase how many people you can get onto a hectare of land. But normally this is impossible. It's impossible because of planning regulations. So in Morazán, the ZE gave us a regulatory sandbox. And I think in many ways this is what you're hoping to achieve with your free city projects, a regulatory sandbox where we could throw out the received wisdom, all the old bad ideas that in Choloma, for example, told us that people would only want to live in a house that had a yard, that had parking, that was detached single family with walls that didn't touch. You know, this might be true in theory, but no one had checked. And we saw how people were living in practice, and we'd guessed that they would like something better. And to tell you how we actually did this, we have my wife and business partner, 4 months pregnant. Nuria Forquez Puigcerver.
All right. So thank you, Patrick. So how did we get to put all these ingredients together and achieve those goals? So first of all, we had to offer a product that the locals could afford, that was decent, and that was better than what the market was offering around, right? That it had a proper roof, insulated walls, sealed windows, all the things that we take for granted, but the locals were not getting there. Then there's a minimum amount that you have to spend in order to get all these things into your house. So we had to economize somewhere else. And that's when we used some of the strategies that Patrick was talking about. We reduced the size of the plots. That way we were able to fit as many units as possible in the site, increasing density, but also driving the land share of the price of each home down. And then we had the building share walls. This meant that we didn't have any wasted land in between, but also we were able to share material costs and construction costs within the houses. Then on top of this, we wrote very flexible regulations, so then people could offset some of the rental costs with entrepreneurial revenue, right? Like they could sublet a room, or they could open a business from their house. These regulations also enabled very flexible land uses, so you can later convert a single-family home into multifamily residence, or combine multiple family homes into a bigger building. Anyway, once we had the details of the private assets set, we had to make the whole site work, not only as an affordable, livable, and complete community, but also financially for the developer. And for that, we took a very careful exercise of optimization of the only asset that we had on hand, which is the land, right? It's a greenfield. And for that, it means that we have to manage very carefully the ratio between public land and private land. Because private land generates revenue, and public land provides value, but consumes that revenue. So we had to minimize the percentage on public land. We had to minimize the percentage that went into public land, while still providing good access to everywhere with decent public spaces. So for the public spaces, we focus on creating a strategic network of small public spaces distributed around. Yes. There we go. A strategic network of public spaces that were small but livable around the community. And then for the streets, we created a hierarchy of streets of different sizes that allowed good access around the site, prioritizing walkability, but also minimizing the amount of land that went destined to streets, which usually occupy the biggest percentage of public land. This strategy, and the smallest street that we have was 4 meters, this is a rendering of that. This strategy, combined with the small plots that we were talking about in the density, also helped us optimize the provision of public services such as water and power and sewage and, of course, security, which come with very fixed costs. And that way we were able to distribute them among more people, reducing the cost per household. In the end, the goal was this, to reduce the fixed cost per household while distributing them among more people and still getting the good returns for the developer. So that's the theory, right? How did it turn out? Well, we all know that Massimo did build something, right? But how do we assess that success, and how do we reach our targets? So did people want to live there and vote with their feet? Did the people want to use their additional freedoms? And did this promote safety and community formations? Let's take a look. Who saw Massimo's presentation yesterday? Raise a hand. Okay, good amount, good. So you're familiar with these outcomes. did people want to live there? Surely, demand has been high. There's over 200 people living in Choloma right now, and it's so high that even despite the political uncertainties, Massimo just built a new apartment building here, which is offering studios at around $80 per month. Okay, let's take a look. This is from our survey from 2019. They were paying around $62 a month. We share facilities that they look like this, and this is the interior of the house. 6 years later, with 31% of inflation, they have a private bathroom, a private kitchen, much better interior conditions, and a very competitive pricing. It's very modest, but way better than what they had before. So we were able to match the informal market. And this is all enabled by the ZEDE regulations, as we were talking about. Did they use their additional freedoms? Definitely. People have been opening businesses from their homes or even proposing amenities in the public spaces, enabling entrepreneurship in the community. And then even Massimo has combined a couple of single-family homes into a larger residential unit. And then finally, did this promote safety and community? For the ones that saw the presentation yesterday, you all heard Mayor Ursula talk about the community and the safety that people feel there. Residents really emphasize their feelings of safety and belonging. Not safety only from crime and gangs and riots, but also from environmental damages. Many people came here displaced by floods, which happen often in the region. The residents also organized town halls and community events, and the biggest accomplishment for all, for me, especially as a mother, the kids playing unsupervised at night, which is a rare sight in Honduras, but also in many places around the world. And now Patrick's going to conclude.
Great. Thanks, Nuria. Really wonderful. So now you've seen how we did it, you know that it works, and hopefully you can start thinking about how to do it yourself. And I can tell you, you'll enjoy it, because the first thing that you do is you throw out some rules. You throw out plot sizes, setbacks, free parking, height restrictions. And if you like this idea, the idea of throwing out rules and building something better, and if that's something that you want to do, you can come and find us at lunch. We'd love to hear your ideas and talk about it more. Thank you. And I think we have time for questions if we want to take them. We're also happy to...
You can also go get lunch and ask questions later. That's also an option.
Good. Great, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.